All right. Welcome everybody. I'm working on some minor technical difficulties, but we're gonna get it together here. Just getting the Twitch stream and Instagram going all at the same time. Looks like we're good. All right, we are ready to roll. All right, got some big shows coming up this weekend. Gonna have Blitzkrieg Pro on Saturday, the Luau, the biggest show of the year. And in preparation for that, I need some fresh toys to sell because I practically sold out of my toys at Pro Wrestling Grind this past weekend. Shout out to the fans who bought toys. I had some online orders, had some pre-orders that I'm gonna be handing out at Blitzkrieg. Some folks that got ahead of the curve. But yeah, I have some of my toys here that are ready to go, ready to get painted up. They've been primed and painted. Got my little Perry and all the different parts here. So yeah, I'm going to be working through painting those today in the hopes that I can clear coat them tomorrow, and we'll be ready to roll for the weekend with some fresh toys. Doing a little bit of fine maintenance on these prints, pulling some bits off of them. There we go. That looks clean. Yeah, one of the rough parts about doing all the priming in my garage on a super hot day, had to leave the door open so the breeze comes by, and these are susceptible to get stuff on them. Hey, Bobby Gilbert in the chat. Welcome, bud. All right, so that's we got parts. I only need 2 additional Perry figures so that I'm ready to go this weekend. I do need more of the Grind Championship belts, which I think came out great. So I have this one that's done. We're going to do up, I have some fresh unfinished ones here that need to be painted, so we're going to take care of those. And yeah, we're going to have those ready. And then I have the parts here for the Blitzkrieg Pro playset that need to be glued up and painted up. So we're going to be taking care of all of that here today on the stream. Got quite a bit of work ahead of me, but I'm glad to be down here in the nice, cool workshop instead of upstairs in the heat. See, Cody, hey, what's up? Yeah, that's right. It's Wednesday Night Perry. Welcome, my friend. And hey, Mr. Man, good to see you. Oh man, Alan in Northeast in the house. Been a while. One of the OGs on the stream. Welcome, bud. Yeah, we're working on toys for the Luau this weekend. And we're going to start. I have these pieces here that are the Blitzkrieg play set. These are unpainted, unassembled, and these are the pieces that hold the lights. These are our sort of lighting fixture pieces. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these together, and then we're gonna paint these up, and that'll be it for those. We'll be able to move on to the next parts, let those dry out of the way. You'll see. And you know, I'm gonna switch to the close-up cam here. You'll see on these that all of the design is raised, and that's going to make doing the painting detail much easier. Really pleased with how these little girder pieces turned out. You get 2 of them with the lights, set them next to each other. That's your wrestler entryway. Pretty stoked on how that turned out. Took a little bit of careful design work and a little bit of adjusting my settings on my printer to get it to come out just right. But you know, overall, it's hard to be upset with how it turned out. All right, so I got super glue, and I got one of my favorite little bits here. I got the zip kicker, the Insta set. This stuff makes CA glue, or cyanoacrylate glue, better known as super glue, crazy glue, set up basically instantly, and it's pretty great. Bobby Gilbert's playing some WWE 2K25. Awesome, man. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. Seems like people are really enjoying themselves with that game. All right, so what I'm going to be doing here, the process is real simple. It's going to make it happen real quick. I put a little bit of dab of glue on this piece. Then I'm going to take this piece off and away from camera so that I don't get any spray anywhere. I'm going to spray just a little bit of zip kicker on there, and then I'm going to stick the piece in place, and that's it. It's done. the stuff dries so fast. Yeah, Mr. Man knows Zip Kicker is the jam. It is the best. And you will notice there's two different colors. I do have variants here. Some of these sets are going to have a little black lighting fixture. Some of them are going to have more of a metal silver. I think both look really cool, and so I printed them in a few different colors. Really, just what people buy is going to be random because there's only so many of each one. Mr. Man says, I'm trying to make a giant Plinko board in BeamNG/Blender so my niece and nephew can wreck cars. Yo, that rules. Oh man, someday I'm going to get on learning to do design for BeamNG. My Blender skills are pretty good making these figures, but that's been about the extent of it for me. All right. Okay. Get this glue open here. And the nice part is, because I know super glue doesn't actually set up that quick, is that I don't have to rush this process. All right, let's get just a little bit, working just off camera. Probably see the little bit of sheen on there. That's all the Zip Kicker it takes. It takes practically none. And then right in the spot I designed for it there. And that flashes off pretty quickly. And you'll see it's kind of at an angle. It's not totally straight. That's because I want the light pointing in at the wrestler standing between the two pillars. So that's going to look pretty good. And just like that, that's totally dry, just that fast. That Zip Kicker stuff is the best. Speaking of the best, I see people tuning in over on Instagram. I see my two homies, Nick Robles and Dante Drago is the best, tuned in over there. Good to see you guys. Can't wait to see you guys kick some butt this weekend at Blitzkrieg. Don't know who you're going to get as a tag partner, though. All right, little glue, little Zip Kicker. This one angles in slightly the other direction. See what's going on in the Twitch chat. Yeah, it only sets up quick when you don't want it to. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I also, someday I'm going to get Fusion and learn that as well. I tend to, for my more geometric builds like these pieces, I tend to stick with Tinkercad. These don't really require a ton of power under the hood to make them. So something like Tinkercad, which admittedly is designed as more of a teaching tool than a design tool, still it's got everything I need. I don't need any more power than it has. All right. This is easily the fastest part of what we're going to work on here. I do wish that I'd had the time to set up my my airbrush, because that would make, when we get to painting the figures, that would make painting the flesh color a lot faster. It often takes multiple coats, even with a nice bright undercoat like this white primer. Still takes a few coats for my admittedly cheap sort of bottom of the barrel acrylic, the sun-kissed peach. I'm sacrificing spending a bunch of money on paint up front for spending a little bit extra time doing coats of paint. But, the truth is I like painting figures, so it's not that big a deal. The only time it becomes a big deal is like right now. I'm kind of up against the clock because I got to have this stuff ready to go for this weekend's big show in Enfield for Blitzkrieg Pro. But yeah, psyched to see Alan in Northeast. He even subbed. I didn't notice that at first. Hopping onto the stream. He hasn't been on for a hot minute, and I'm glad to see him pop in. Like I say, he's one of the OGs of the stream, going way back. All right, so that's it for super glue, and we're done. That's all the assembly that we got to do today. Now we're strictly on to painting. And again, I tend to stick with cheap materials for those who haven't seen one of these streams before. I use the they're just Walmart or dollar store acrylics. Sort of your you get the Apple Barrel brand or Craft Smart, those kinds of things, along with a few others, whatever trickles in. Some of these paints were free. I also I will use for certain things. I'll use sponges for painting, and this comes in a like 8-pack of these from Dollar Tree. So $1.25 for 8 of those, and they last forever. And then I have an assortment over here of different brushes and things, all of which come in multi-packs from dollar stores. I'm not particularly picky with the brushes. I find that if you take your time and you're careful, any brush can be a pretty good brush. There are exceptions, but again, I'm willing to stress myself out and work a little bit longer in the name of saving a couple bucks up front. All right, so we are going to do these belts first because it's the only silver that I need. I tend to go by like which color I'm using. So I do have this, again, just cheap acrylic metallic silver, sort of glittery. And shake that up. Then we're going to get a little of it out here. And in fact, I'm going to do it right on, I got to grab a piece of cardboard. I just had a pile, oh, here they are, good. I have these spare little pieces of cardboard here. And I'm going to use that because I need a nice flat surface to work from because I'm going to be using a sponge for this. If I was using a brush, I can put them into these little cups. But because I'm going to be essentially stamping the paint rather than brushing, I can get away with putting this on a flat surface rather than in a cup. I do like to give them a solid shaking before I pull them out because these things tend to settle. They sit in my my workshop drawers for quite a little while before they're in use. All right, and again, this is hardly going to take any paint to do what we're doing here. So I'm just going to put a few dabs down. And on this, you can see I've already used some of these corners, and that really doesn't matter. That's not going to affect it at all. All right, so get a bit of paint on there, and I'm going to dab it mostly dry. And we'll take at our first victim here, where I'm just lightly dabbing at the top. I'm only hitting the raised parts of the design here. This is why I can get away with single color printing, which actually on these championship belts is my only option, because this is a resin print, and on a resin print you can only print in one color. And it has to be a resin print because I had to get special material to make these belts. I had to get flexible resin. This is actually a 3D print resin. It's still in its testing phase with the company that makes it. This stuff is actually designed to hopefully make RC tires. That's why they needed it to be flexible. And you can see when I pick one of these up, this is not something you can usually do with a 3D print. I can wrap it clear around my finger, and then when I let it go, it's just A-OK, goes back to shape. So yeah, but yeah, you can see with my little stamping there, boom, perfect little outline, got our little logo, and that's good to go sit somewhere and dry. Nice part about these flat prints, they don't have to be hung up to dry. I can just lay them down flat out of the way somewhere. All right, keep on keeping on here. Boom, just that fast, just that easy. Looks great. Now that the fact that it's designed to be painted so quick, that was very much done on purpose. That was exactly what I had in mind when I started designing these belts, which I did on stream. You can find that on my YouTube channel in its entirety. I think it came out really well. It looks really nice. I know Rip and Delmy over at Grind and the Grind offices, they were thrilled with how this looked. Who knows? When the finals come for the new championship belt over at Blitzkrieg, maybe I'll win and I'll have to design another belt to go with my toys. That'd be pretty cool. That's a good problem to have. Too many championships. And this is the one that we already had finished. This is what it looks like when it dries. It gets really, that color really comes in nice and bright. All right. So that's that for those. I get rid of these pieces while they sort themselves out. Yeah, we'll use that. Why not? All right, we have one other piece that needs the stamp paint treatment, and that is back to these pieces that we just glued up here. This is all these raised parts are going to get stamped as well, and it's going to make this logo really stand out. Again, this is something I'm so happy with how this ended up working out. Let's see, where's my pack of those sponges? I don't want to necessarily. I'm going to use the foam brush for this one. It's basically the same thing as the sponge. It's just what was handy. I don't have a fresh sponge nearby. I could cut up the one that I already have, but I won't bore you with that. All right, grabbing again just our cheap white acrylic craft paint. I am super happy with how these ended up looking. This is a rainbow printer filament for my filament printers. It changes color about every meter of plastic. So every 3 feet of plastic, the plastic morphs into another color. So as it prints up in layers, you get that effect, which I think just looks so cool. And it's so Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg has, it's Pride Month. Blitzkrieg has incredible ties with the LGBT QIA plus community. I think I got all the letters right there. And this looks kind of luau to me. There's a bit of a party vibe to that, and that's what Blitzkrieg is. Blitzkrieg is a party, man. All right. Let's get a little of this out here. Again, it doesn't take much. Like, that'll be plenty, and that's, I don't know, 3 little drops. All right. Which side do I like best? All right. I'm going to do my best to get this on camera for both Twitch and Instagram here. Yeah, that ought to do it. All right, so get some paint on this. And then we're just going to start dabbing. And this nice flat dab is going to highlight just the top of our design. And you can already see how cool is that. This is one of the neat things about 3D printing, especially if you're planning to turn something into a finished product where you paint it and stuff, is that with some careful thought in the design, you can accomplish some pretty unique things like this. You can make parts that are movable, you can make parts that are adjustable, and you can make parts that paint up really easy. And that's what I've done here. Designed it specifically so that it would print easily and that it would paint easily, and both things turned out to be true. The prints came off the printer really easy, and you're watching me paint it in real time here. It's taken me like no work to get this done. Boom. There's one. How great does that look? I mean, come on. So slick. So cool. Hey, AJ Kirsch, what's up, bud? Good to see you, buddy. I'm painting up the Playsets that I designed for Blitzkrieg Pro in Connecticut. These are for their entryway. I have little holders that these little cheapo lights go in, and printed it with some rainbow filament so it changes color. And did some raised design to match the, they have banners for their entryway, so the design matches that, and then I paint it nice, quick, and easy. AJ Kirsch in the Instagram chat says, he says, oh, they're so pretty, I love it, love the rainbow fade, and then he says, suck it, Twitch. So take that, everyone watching over on the Twitch chat. But yeah, raising the design up like this means that painting it is real easy. Certainly a darn sight easier than it is when I paint the figures. Those take a lot of careful precision. This is the paint just goes on. Bobby Gilbert in the Twitch chat, psyched that AJ Kirsch is on again. And who wouldn't be, you know? All right, and there's number 2. Good to go. And yeah, I'm only having to do a couple of these because I have a few that are ready to go and even already packed up. And I'm kind of frantically getting toys done this week because this past weekend at Pro Wrestling Grind, I practically sold out of my toys. So didn't intend on being just about out of them before another weekend with big shows. And with the Blitzkrieg Luau this weekend, the biggest show Blitzkrieg runs every year, they're WrestleMania. Got to be ready. Got to be ready because the fans are going to want. This is the first time I've had the Blitzkrieg playsets at a show, so they're going to be excited. The Grind playsets sold like crazy too. And our buddy over in the Twitch chat, Alan Nadu, he pre-ordered both playsets, so I got a special box packed up with figure, championship belt, and the playset for him. All right. God, I love how quick these come together. Okay, Captain Luau Albano. That's me. That's what they call me. At least it's what they will call me. All right. Got a few little straggly bits of plastic there, but now it's all cleaned up. And only one more of these towers to get through. And we'll be on to painting the figures. AJ Kirsch, were you on in time to see the custom championship belts for Pro Wrestling Grind that I made? For those who aren't regular viewers, because I'm not on the Instagram chat that often, I am the Pro Wrestling Grind Grand Champion. So it felt like my toy needed to come with the belt. There we go. Yeah, last one of those, all good to go. Yeah, the championship belts, I had to get special material for these. This is a very special type of 3D printable resin. It's actually a prototype resin that's not available everywhere yet. I had to contact the company special because normal resin, hard as a rock. Even this is a very durable resin that won't snap, but it's still hard as a rock. This resin, on the other hand, when it's all done and dry, is super flexible and goes right back to its shape. So you can wrap the belt right around the wrestler's waist and put it on them, and it'll fit the modern scale figures and the Hasbros. I did it in the style of the Hasbro figures, the old WWF belt from those. And raising the design up like that made painting these real easy. Just needed some silver paint on a sponge, and bam. All right, so all of that's drying. I'm going to move all that off the work surface here so I can get in on these figures here. The figures, again, it's been a mad dash on these. Alan Nadu says, just curious, could you bring the grind belt to Blitzkrieg? Need a pick with the Monster Truck Champ. You know what? I think I can arrange that. Usually I don't bring it along, but I can do that. All right, we'll get rid of that too. All right, yeah, the figures have been a little bit of a mad dash to get done because, again, I sold out on Saturday, and I needed more. I do have the ones that Alan Nadu put a pre-order in with me, so I set one aside for him, knowing that he needed that. So I do have yours, Alan. In fact, on the in-person cam right behind me, you can see a cardboard box right there. That is your two play sets with the Perry figure and belt ready to go. Yeah, I'm real happy, AJ Kirsch over in the Instagram chat. I'm super happy with how that belt turned out. It was real touch and go because the actual material requires some very special print settings. So I was I was really pushing it, trying to get it to work the way that it should. All right, let's. I guess we're gonna go with the white colors first, and then we'll hit the flesh tones. So, like the old school toys, like the Hasbro toys, I don't have a ton of different colors that I do on a given figure. I try to keep it to just a few of them. So for my figures, the only colors that I really have to use are these four, except for a little bit of detail on the trunks later. I have black, that's for my knee pads, wrist tape, elbow sleeve, and boots. I have a flesh tone for my skin. I have white for the little bit of sock between the boot and knee pad, and also as the base color for the trunks. And then I have this King's Gold. That's as close as I can get to my sort of dirty blonde, reddish, brownish hair that on the toy reads like the way the colors read on the old Hasbros. Let's see. All right, so we're gonna get some white down here into our little Dollar Tree cup. Only the finest of instruments and materials. All right. Now I gotta find one of these brushes that's fine tip, but doesn't have to be anything special. I do have just a couple of old glass jars full of water here and some paper towels ready to go. One of the joys of working with acrylics, they are water soluble, so they're pretty easy to work with. One thing I have discovered, though, is if you have color on top of color, especially where fine details are concerned, like the pupils in an eye on acrylic, if you then hit it with a clear coat, it will get all muddled up and ruined. So I have to clear coat it and then put in the pupils, but that's really the only place where it's been a problem. And I will tell you, I was not a happy human monster truck when I discovered that. That really messed up my day when that occurred. I had 4 figures finished and looking good, and then after the clear coat finished, I realized nothing was right about their eyes. And thankfully, having done, I used white as my primer on these, and that makes getting these white layers one and done. It doesn't take much to get coverage because there's already some white there. I just like to, just for the sake of making sure that there's none of the original gray plastic color peeking through, I lay down a little layer, and that seems to do the trick. Right. Yeah, having Having the white color primer has made all the difference in the world here. I'm also going to hit the trunks with white because that's an easier base for me to work on later. The trunks end up being red and white. They're done as my most recent trunk design, which is a direct reference to the old Carolina Crusher monster truck that was red and yellow. But you know, in pro wrestling, red and yellow is pretty well spoken for, so I changed it up a little bit. But the design itself is directly Carolina Crusher. I put up a post on Instagram about it earlier today, but I only realized when I was doing a little research last night, because I was going to post about how I was a guest of Bigfoot and the Mattel folks over at the Hot Wheels tour last weekend to go see monster trucks in Stafford Springs, Connecticut. I knew that I had been there the last time Bigfoot had been at Stafford Springs, which was in the summer of 1998. I knew I had been there for that. And when I was looking it up, what I didn't realize was that show, August 1st and 2nd, 1998, at Stafford Springs, was the last time Bigfoot ever performed for Monster Jam for the USHRA, the United States Hot Rod Association. I did not realize that at age 14, I was at that show. And that's an incredibly important moment in the history of monster trucks. Bigfoot splitting off from the USHRA and Monster Jam. That's a huge moment in history. And it turns out I was there for it. Had no idea. How could I have? I was a kid. You know, I didn't know. And yeah, found that out last night when I was looking it up. All right, let's see. Oh, Adam NX67's here. I prefer Carolina Crusher over that guy. Yeah, big agree. Alan Nadu points out the old warhorse is dead. Yeah, that's fair. And the aforementioned guy we don't care much for, Hogan, is a nonce. That's why I don't do the red and yellow, is I don't want people to look at me and go, oh yeah, like Hulk Hogan. I want to be seen as nothing like Hulk Hogan. I'd like to make money like he did, but not the same way, you know, stepping over other people and quietly being a terrible human being in the background, and then later publicly a terrible human being. I'd like to avoid those parts of his story, you know. But you know, being rich, that would be cool. I mean, I'm down for that. But for now I'll settle for just happily making toys in the basement, lifting some heavy weights, wrestling for great fans, and goofing off on the internet, you know. All that ain't so bad. You know, who needs a fortune when you can just have fun all the time? See, Alan says in PvP or PVV lore, green, purple, and black equals Gravedigger. Fair. Orange and silver, Max D. Yep. Red and yellow, Carolina. For me, it wound up being red and white is Carolina Crusher. And when you see the exact design on the trunks, I did the exact logo and everything, just with my name, and the colors are a bit different. We need more color schemes, though. Blue, black, and a cowboy hat for Bounty Hunter. Oh, that's good. That's good. Rest in nihilism for Warhorse. Blue with lightning bolts for Blue Thunder. Yeah, I can't do Blue Thunder here, though, because we have Blue Thunder. J. Freddy's Blue Thunder. Light blue and silver, Gravedigger the Legend. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. I've heard worse ideas for sure. Yeah, when I have to do more of these soon, because if the luau's anything like Grind was, I'll probably sell out of these. when I have to make more of these soon, I'm going to break out the airbrush, and that's how I'm going to do at least the flesh colors, because as you'll see when we get to them, it takes a few coats to get them on, and I could save myself some trouble if I airbrushed it. I just, you know, today it was hot. I was tired. I didn't feel like digging out the airbrush, cleaning it out, getting it all ready to go. Instead, I decided to hop on here and hang out with all of you. All right. So that's the white for both of those. I believe that's all I got to worry about with white for now. So I'm going to set that out of the way. We're going to clean this brush off. Alan, I agree with all these ideas. These are man, Adam NX67 and Alan Nadu, two peas in a pod. Let me tell you, you guys would absolutely get along with your love of monster trucks and racing and wrestling. Go figure that this is where you both wound up. I feel like this is exactly slowing over the plate for my audience, right? Go figure. All right. Now we got to start tackling the flesh colors. Just got to figure out which we want to do first, the arms or the torsos. Guess we'll start with the torsos. This is thinking. This is the hard stuff. See now, purple and blue Predator, Alan Pezo. That's a maybe. Pink and white for Clydesdale for sure. The Tropical Thunder one for Wayne Smozanek. Yep, absolutely. I could see doing some yellow and Thunder Chicken, which is dead on the nose for me with the chickens that I have. But yeah, for the Predator colors, I could actually see going old school and going with the original blue, and it was like red and yellow, or sort of pink and yellow on the original logos. I could see doing a few different variations there. All right. We got to break out the flesh color because we're going to be doing a lot of passes with this. We always do. That's just how it is. And I'm going to try. I don't always do it. Sometimes I like to really let my layers cure between coats. But I'm probably going to try hitting this with the heat gun a little bit and try to rush that cure along. Again, because I have very little time. I still have to clear coat these when they're done and let them fully cure, and then I need to get them into boxes all packed up and ready to go for Saturday. Red and yellow is an Awesome Kong or King Kong. Yeah, Awesome Kong is one that's definitely on my mind for that. I did have a pair of Bigfoot themed trunks. They weren't exactly what I had in mind. Delmy made them for me, and they're great. I wore them a bunch. Had some great matches in them. I have changes the next time. I think some Wildfoot trunks with that sort of like the teal and the silver and the pink could be really cool. All right, now the one thing I do know about this is that with this paint, because it's a little bit thicker and I don't want those awful brush strokes all over the toys, I do tend to thin this coat out just a little bit. I used to have a little eyedropper gimmick around here, but instead I think I'm just gonna get it on the brush and put some drops in there. It's not an exact science on this. I do know that it's always easier to add more water than it is to take it out, so. Then I got a huge pack of Dollar Tree popsicle sticks, craft sticks as they're labeled in the store. Yeah, pink and yellow for Little Miss Dangerous. Oh, that'd be sick. Black and yellow for power. Yeah, just flames, just black with flames for the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Light brown, dark brown for Monster Ma. Okay, or black and white for the Dalmatian. Yeah, I could see that. I don't dislike any of these ideas, you guys. This is solid ideas. This is great. I'm crowdsourcing gear ideas, and I'm into that. The Yeti monster truck. Oh, but it's actually a mummy because it's Kevin. Was it Kevin Nash in that outfit? All right. Let's see here. So I'll use this one to get sort of our detail. Then I'm going to get a bigger brush for the bigger areas. But yeah, for this first pass, I'm going to try bring this camera a little closer here so that I'm not having to play to it so much. I'm going to try on these first passes to just sort of make sure that I cover the in-detailed parts and that there's solid coverage everywhere. Let's see, how's this looking? Is this too thick? No, this is workable. And I do try to not get onto the hair because, again, being blonde, the sort of gold yellow color that I use for the hair, real easy to have to do a bunch of coats of that too if I'm having to cover up other colors. Oh, that's right. Nash was Oz. The debut of Oz, we watched that at a grind after party, a whole bunch of us. It's incredible. It's like a 20-minute Wizard of Oz themed entrance for this massive monster, Kevin Nash, wearing a mask that he took off as soon as he got to the ring. And then the match starts, and he literally hits a merry-go-round, and that's the whole match. So I loved it. Yeah, he literally had one move, and it was a merry-go-round. You can imagine in a room full of folks from Grind who had not seen that before, because they're all so darn young, that it was all just a surprise to them. They couldn't believe when he hooked him and picked him up and gave him a merry-go-round. The thing is, I've never claimed the merry-go-round was an original move. It's just I'm the only person doing it these days, so I'll take it. And I'm glad to have it that way because it's a great move. People love it when I break that out. It's to the point now where I feel like if I don't hit it in a match, like it's going to be a bit of a letdown. It'd sort of be like, you imagine going to a show back when, seeing Stone Cold and he doesn't hit a single stunner, even if he wasn't in a match, if he was just in a run-in. Alright, and like I said, I'm going to just use this little brush to get all the sort of outlining areas, and then I'm going to come back with a big brush and hit all the big, lesser detailed stuff, the big broad spaces. Yeah, with this lighter primer, I might only need to do 2 coats of this color, and that is really promising because when I had darker primer on here, I had sort of a gray primer previously, and then before that I didn't even do a primer. I just used the original gray that the plastic kind of comes in. It was taking me 3, sometimes 4 coats with the flesh color to get full coverage. And now this is looking not so bad. It's definitely going to take 2 coats, but I'm fine doing 2 coats. One of the reasons that I was so happy to make toys for wrestling, when I realized it was something that I could just do, is because I would have been doing it anyway, even if I wasn't doing wrestling, even if there wasn't if people weren't paying me for these. I would just be doing it because I like it, you know. And I got the 3D printer for Christmas a couple years ago, 2020, Christmas 2020. I immediately started making my own monster truck toys and stuff just for fun. So I'd have been doing it no matter what, but now I make money doing it. I mean, currently, in-ring performance and making 3D printed toys and my other merch, that's my only job. This is my living. How cool is that? You know? Perry in super tight red tights. Skinny awesome Kong. Perry circa 2017 could have been skinny awesome Kong. I was a thin boy in those days. I can remember being announced with a weight of 210 pounds and someone in the crowd exclaiming bullshit because they didn't believe that I was over 200 pounds. Now I'm announced at 245 and no one bats an eye because it's very believable because it is my actual weight. 210 was my actual weight as well, but you know, apparently I didn't look it. Take that however you will. I mean, sometimes not looking 210 is a good thing. When I very first started wrestling, I just had them not announce my weight because I was so heavy I was embarrassed. For those that don't know, I was about 300 pounds when I first started wrestling, and it was not a good 300 pounds. I wore it very poorly. All right. And that's pretty solid coverage. I'm liking this brush. It leaves almost no brush strokes. So I'm super into that. It's a very soft brush that I haven't broken out before. All right. Hang this guy up to dry a little bit while we work. There we go. For those who might be looking at it and wondering just what in the world, this little nubbin coming out of the bottom of this figure, that is 2 earplugs that I stuffed down into the hole there so that I can hang this up to dry when the time comes, and it doesn't do any damage to the toy. So love that. All right, let's see here. Skinnier brush back. And back to the nitty-gritty detail work. I like to think that I was pretty honest here with my hairline. I wasn't afraid to give myself a little bit of a widow's peak. I know what's up. I own a mirror. I have 2 eyes and a heart, don't I? It's Delmy and her sister Ashley. That's their go-to thing when they want to pick on me. They like to point out my hairline. It doesn't really bother me because, like, what are you going to do? It's not like a choice I made. You know, so I feel like I can't really be villainized for it. You know, it's a little bit like picking on someone for being short. Like what? Like they chose their height? It's not something you're in control of. Oh, hey, Anton Voorhees, the link to the future of professional wrestling in the chat over on Instagram. Good to see you, but I agree, bald can be beautiful. But I'm not bald, just for the record. I would never admit to such a thing. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's my Seinfeld moment. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'll be interested to see what the weather's doing when I get out of this basement working on this stuff. It's been so terrible. I know Anton's thankfully not in New England, although I'd love to see him, but not in this heat wave, man. Stay in California, you're better off. It's been unbearable out here the last few days. Uh-oh, the Grizz crew raiding over on Twitch. What's up, guys? Welcome. Prepping some Perry figures just in time for the luau. Gotta have them ready for this weekend. Big show coming up. I know I'll see the Grizz crew at the luau, right? You'll all be there? Biggest show of the year. Be a tough one to miss. All right. Got pretty good coverage here. Okay, good. The Grizz crew will be there. I didn't see a response right away, and I got a little worried. What were you guys streaming over on your channel today? Love when I get to the big open spaces on the figure. The painting becomes so much easier. Streaming casual pro wrestling for for your brother's birthday. Hey, happy birthday to the Grizz brother. Boy, that wasn't that a wrestling sentence to say. The Grizz brother. Yeah, I can't wait for the fans over at Blitzkrieg to get a load of the Blitzkrieg Pro Playset when I bring it out, set it up on the merch table. They're gonna love it. In my mind, gonna sell out of them before the show starts. It's the biggest party of the summer. Forget SummerSlam. The Blitzkrieg Luau is the place to be in summertime in pro wrestling. I don't care what anybody says. Better than some show in the Middle East. Watching Oldberg. I like Goldberg as much as anybody else, which is to say a bit. But I think the Blitzkrieg Luau is going to be a much better time. GrizzKid says I definitely got to get that figure. Hell yeah. I hope you do. I know you just tuned in. I'll review a little bit because it's not just the figure. It's a whole play set, my friend. Comes with a couple of these guys for the Blitzkrieg Pro entryway that has a little light that goes in it. So 2 of those on either side of your figure so they can enter just like at the luau. And it's not Blitzkrieg centric, but I am the Pro Wrestling Grind Grand Champion, so it does come with a grind replica belt in scale with the figure. So if you have the means, by all means, got to get the toys. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to grab, yeah, this one ought to do it. We're going to start slapping some paint on these arms here. I need to get a little more of my flesh tone. All right. Starting to run low on there. That means I got to get a little bit of water in there too. You always gotta thin these acrylics just a little bit. They tend to be, depending on which ones, they're a little bit thick when I start with them. And if you use them when they're that thick, you end up with god-awful, ugly brush strokes all over the toys. And again, when I do the next batch of these, and I'll probably do it on stream because it's pretty cool, it's kind of an interesting process, I can use these same acrylics, watered down just enough in my airbrush. And so I'll probably be airbrushing at least the flesh color onto these toys, because that is much faster and easier than hand painting. Didn't do it this time because it's been so hot. I didn't have it in me. Didn't have it in me to get down here and do it. All right. Let's work on the tough ones first. So, one thing I talk about how the Playsets, I did some very careful design work to make them easy to paint. That is not something that I really can do on the figures. On the figures, the details have to be where the details are. And that means when I have a little space like that, that's between two pieces of wrist tape, where the flesh color has to be, I just have to go slow. And that is a bit of a pain, but I refuse to sacrifice detail in the name of making the toys faster, because I'm not mass manufacturing. You know, I don't have an order of 200 of these I got to get through. You know, it's a much smaller number all the time. So if I got to go a little bit more slowly to make things look the way I want, that's what we're going to do. Grizz says, hope you got some Perry t-shirts for us Saturday. Boy, do I. I got 2 brand new designs. I got a t-shirt for my streams. I got my stream design. That is a retro Nintendo style Perry next to a retro Nintendo style Bigfoot. And then I also have I call it my Folk Festival t-shirt. It is sort of a canvasy color shirt with a dark green ink. It's a design that my wife drew up for me, actually. I told her what I wanted. She does line art in the style of, if you think of old textbooks where they had sort of line art drawings of different plants and things, she does that for her work sometimes. So I told her, you know, I want something in that style for me, but I don't know what it would be. I mean, probably a monster truck, but I don't know. And she told me, she said, you know, find me an old monster truck with a real simple frame. So I did. I found her a great picture of, I believe it's Gravedigger 2. And she said, yeah, I can work with that. What I didn't know is that she drew the frame, and then on the frame, she put my Rabbit truck, my VW, my 1981 VW Rabbit is the monster truck. And then in the back bed of the truck, she drew a large planter carrying some of the plants that grow in our swamp in our backyard that we see all the time. As well as a bird that's a very common bird in our yard. I can't remember if it was the wood thrush or the thrasher. But it's pretty cool. It's actually sort of like a a bit of crossover merch. I don't buzz market for my wife's stuff very often on here. You know, I tend to just talk Perry stuff, but my wife runs a fairly popular YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok that is based entirely around our swamp. It is called Swamp Vids, and it's just ambiance videos of the swamp in our backyard. And it's really cool. She puts a lot of time into editing the audio. She has a really expensive shotgun mic where she gets incredible audio of the birds and of like frogs and peepers and things. And then she has a very nice camera where she gets some really good footage that she makes sure lines up with it. It's super cool and weirdly very popular. Like, for such a simple idea, people love it. Alan Edu says, swamp. Is that how Cruel gets to New England? Teleports from his chair. That's exactly right. I give him a ride from my swamp to the venue. Sometimes I just catch him back there hanging out, eating small animals that are unsuspecting. He leaves the chickens alone, though, because he knows I need the eggs. Yeah, I'm psyched for Cruel and CPA. That's going to be a great match at the Luau. You know, I love CPA in a weird situation match like that. I actually just wrestled him 2 weeks ago down in New York City in a casket match. So that was pretty cool. All right, set this guy up on the drying rack. There we go. We're making decent progress here. By the time I get through these limbs, I think the white on these will be just dry enough that I can start putting flesh color on the legs there. What you're all getting here behind the scenes, this is whenever you hear what I charge for my figures, if it seems high, which it's actually not, it's pretty similar to what toys are in the stores. This is why. It's just so much work. It's fun, like I have a nice time, but it is a lot of work. All right, Grizz Kid, have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. I always appreciate the raid, my friend. Yeah, these streams, these workout streams. These are workshop streams. Sort of what I think of as like the closest thing I do to ASMR. Where we're just hanging out, we're just chilling, crafting, making toys, chit-chatting. You know, it's relaxing. I'm sort of I like to think of myself as the Bob Ross of pro wrestling toys. Not a title I ever thought I would try to have, but here we are. These are definitely the relaxing streams for sure. Not like when I'm playing a retro video game and I'm just stressed the whole time because I'm so bad at video games. We're looking pretty good there. Yeah, this coverage with the lighter primer, this is a huge improvement. Huge improvement. But yeah, wrestled CPA in a casket match 2 weeks ago down in New York. Man, what a time that was. I did win. I have a perfect record in casket matches for those who were paying attention, for those who care about such things. I think I'm gonna make casket matches my signature match, because you know I'm the human monster truck. Gravedigger's the most famous monster truck, arguably. So why not? It seems fitting. I certainly, you know, I think I could argue that I could make both casket matches and buried alive match is my signature. I think there's an argument there, and I know I've mentioned this to a few folks in wrestling. They all kind of agree with me that that's a great idea. Now I just got to find a way to do a buried alive match. I feel like that would go super viral. Indie company does buried alive match. You know, no competition for that for sure. It's been wild. It's been so hot that I've had to forego my lifting the last few nights. Just the heat full on making me not feel well. And that's a weird feeling. Like just having my 11 o'clock to 1:30 in the morning just free has been weird. I'm so used to spending that time down here in the basement lifting and then having my post-workout shakes upstairs, that suddenly having that not be part of the routine has been really strange. All right, that's looking pretty good. We got some decent coverage there. Definitely going to need a second coat, but again, if these pieces only need 2 coats each, that's a huge improvement from how it was functioning previously. Put that on I've got a whole slew of these little drying racks just off camera. If you're watching on Instagram, and if you're watching on Twitch, you see me get up and walk over to them every once in a while. See, AdamNX67 on Twitch says, fun wrestling motorsports trivia. Stone Cold Steve Austin had both a monster truck and a funny car, while the NWO had a monster truck and a NASCAR stock car. I did know that. There's been some wild crossover with some of that stuff, and I love it. I think it's always just so brilliant. There's so much crossover in the audience. Like, why wouldn't you do it from both sides? I think it's beneficial to both the motorsports side and the wrestling side. All right. Now these arms are a little bit easier. This is the arm where rather than 2 small bits of wrist tape and 1 little elbow sleeve, I wear 1 big bit of wrist tape. So it's much easier to paint. Yeah, well, next time I change my in-ring look up, I'm going for the simplest thing I can find so that making toys becomes real easy. That's where Stone Cold had it all figured out right up until he needed those knee braces. Black trunks, black wrist tape, black knee pads, black boots, and that's it. Guy had it all figured out. Okay, that's looking pretty good. At some point, I'm probably going to go ahead and invest in like proper model paints, because they tend to only take 1 layer for coverage. They tend to be pretty good that way. They also like to lay a lot flatter. You don't have to do a whole lot of fussing with them to get them to be thin enough to avoid brush strokes, but thick enough to have coverage. But for now, I'd just as soon take the time to do some extra work. It's toy making. It's fun. It's not that serious, you know what I mean? When I see people having like real serious debates about pro wrestling online, especially if it's someone who's in the business, one of my first thoughts is always like, wow, you're getting real worked up. Like, it's important. Care, for sure. Absolutely care. But don't get all worked up about it. We're play fighting in our underwear. Let's have some fun. Being a part of this was the dream. Why are you getting all angry? All right. Okay, one last arm, and then we're on to these legs. We're making decent enough progress. You know, we're zipping through here. I don't know if I'm going to stream all the way till they're done, because it's going to take a while. Like, I'm going to be here all night. But who knows? Maybe that's fun. Is that what the people want? Is that what Twitch and YouTube wants, and Instagram? They just want incredible amounts of very long form content. They want. This is Perry's Citizen Kane. This is my Dune. Just goes on and on and on and never ends. I don't know. Maybe that's what the people want. Let's see. A few wrestlers had funny car schemes. There were some with monster trucks, a couple that were supposed to that never actually happened. NWO and WCW both had NASCAR cars. Man, I'm so glad that I got folks like Alan Nadeau and Adam NX67 and Bobby Gilbert when he's on here, because you guys come bringing the knowledge. You guys know what's up. Trivia nerds in all the realms that I find interesting. And I'm into it. I think that's cool. It's like when I discovered earlier today that I was at Bigfoot's last ever Monster Jam event. Had no idea. But I was there, turns out. See, Adam NX67 ads. I remember that. There was Undertaker, Kane, The Rock, SmackDown, and the XFL actually have Stone Cold's blue funny car, Undertaker and Kane. Oh, that's so cool. What an interesting collection to have, right? Like, what a cross-section of that era of wrestling. Let's see. Trying to remember why Bigfoot left Monster Jam. They wouldn't sign over the name, image, and likeness rights the way Dennis did with Gravedigger. There was more to it than that too, because at the time Monster Jam was being bought out by Clear Channel, and they told the individual teams, you're not allowed to film at these events anymore. And Bob Chandler was such a stickler for safety that he always filmed everything, so that if something went wrong, he'd be able to look back and see what went wrong and how could he make his stuff safer. And when they said, no, you can't even do that, we'll give you our footage, which of course wouldn't be terribly useful to him in that capacity, he said, no, I'm good, and he walked. Which is wild. Yeah, the filming was a big deal, yeah. I think in some ways the guy that started Bigfoot, don't hate me, don't remember his name, Bob Chandler, kind of regrets it. Bob Chandler doesn't regret it, I don't think. He seems pretty okay with where they are and what they've done. I know that he's not a fan of the, interestingly enough, because he created Snakebite, he's not a big fan of the, like, anthropomorphized trucks and everything. So I think he probably doesn't miss out on being in Monster Jam, because I don't think it's a product he would enjoy. He hates monster trucks doing backflips. He doesn't like that it's become sort of like a weird choreographed acrobatic thing. You know, he was always about the racing. And interestingly enough, they don't even do racing on the Hot Wheels tour now. couple years they haven't, which is very strange. Monster Jam fans can't stand Feld anymore because of everything that's happened to Monster Jam. Yeah, absolutely. Making it more about entertainment and the kids. And I get that. I mean, which is, it's interesting because that's also Hot Wheels is the same way. It's just a little kids show. So like, if you want monster trucks that's for like the actual like fans that like the sport of monster truck racing, you basically have to go to indie shows. Like there's not any in between. All right. I keep pulling back and painting these up close to me and not near the camera, which is really not great for not great for content. But yeah, thanks everybody. We've had a good turnout tonight. Thanks everybody for showing up at a rare Wednesday night Perry. Monster Jam was marketed as something for the family, but then it got taken more for being just for kids, pushing away the older fans. Yeah, that's true. And that's true, Cody. Yeah, with Hot Wheels, it's got to be expected because Hot Wheels is literally just one long commercial for the toys, which is fine. I have nothing against that. Some of my favorite entertainment has just essentially been long commercials for toys. Love the Ninja Turtles. Whole show is basically just a commercial for toys. Same with the Power Rangers, just a commercial for toys. I'd be hard-pressed to complain about that. I mean, I'm sitting here doing toy making. Who am I to complain? See, as well as Feld wanting virtually nothing to do with independence. Yeah, that's true. Planning on going to the show at the fairgrounds in Sioux Falls in September. They're bringing in Jersey Outlaw. Yo, that's awesome. I love that there's a bunch of trucks that are still designed after the old ones. I mean, we talked about the Nightlife truck coming back. But I love that like Stomper is still out there with the original paint scheme. We got Bigfoot still running all the time. Nightlife is back. There's a Buffalo Tremor out there running. Thunder Chicken, and then all the three 3B triple B guys, the Carolina Crusher, Barefoot, Monster Patrol, Barely Tame, Overkill, Rampage. We got Black Stallion out with the Vodders. There's Taurus with the Vodders. There's a lot of the old school trucks still out there today, and that's super cool. There's a bunch of them that I still haven't seen live. Every so often I cross some off the list. This past year I saw Virginia Giant with the throwback paint job, which I loved. I got to see Triple B earlier this year and got to see Carolina Crusher, Barefoot, and Rampage on that tour. Super cool. Yeah, they made Barefoot a Ford, which is weird, and for a while they made him all black. I think we were talking on yesterday's show about how they made USA 1 into a black truck instead of its traditional white paint job. Very weird. But I don't want to be the old man shouting at clouds, going, "I want these trucks to look the way they did 40 years ago when I was a." That's just crazy. Let them try new stuff. Let them make the kids happy. Yeah, they need to bring the Casper truck back. Although I imagine the world is more litigious now. I feel like anything with a name directly taken and paint job details directly taken from property owned by someone else, that's going to be a harder sell now than it was in the 80s. You could get away with a lot then. I mean, hell, in the 80s, they had the Thumper truck that had Thumper from Bambi on it. Like, come on. You're going to use IP owned by Disney? That's daring. That said, fun trivia. I was originally going to call the Perry-Go-Round before Johnny Torres called it the Perry-Go-Round. Johnny Torres has given me every great name for everything I've ever done. But I was originally going to call the Perry-Go-Round the Carousel of Progress, being a direct Disney reference. That was back in the days where Team Mad, Mutually Assured Destruction, myself and Rip Bison, we were always being announced to the ring as hailing from Epcot Center. which was fun. It meant that we could be from almost any country. I mean, one of 12 anyway. Or we could be from future world. We could be from the future. Hailing from the Fast Pass line for Spaceship Earth. Yeah, I suppose it's sort of a parts unknown kind of thing. But yeah, hailing from Epcot Center when we would be heels on a show, I would just start, and a lot of fans didn't even know the reference if they hadn't been to the park. But I would just start yelling at fans, "That's right, annual pass holder," which I think is a great heel move. Ain't nobody in the parks quite as annoying as the pass holes. All right, we got coverage everywhere we need it. All right. On the back here. There we go. All right. Now those can sit there and dry while I retrieve some of the parts that have already dried up for us. I think torsos first and then arms here. Again, one of the really nice things with this this acrylic, you can see there's a little bit of uncured paint there, but it's mostly dry. I'm going to hit this with the heat gun to cure up those last bits. So for those of you who have headphones on, protect your ears. I'm turning on the heat gun. All right, that looks pretty good. So we can hit this with coat number 2, which I am really hoping is going to be the only coat needed here. I think there's a pretty good possibility. I may thin this out just a bit more, because when you get to your second coats, having thinner, yeah, the heat gun would be a good name for a finish. I agree. Having thinner layers of paint later on allows the paint to kind of just fall into the areas where that initial paint didn't really get full coverage. Again, I like to work, you've probably noticed, I'm working in pretty thin layers of paint. And that's for a few reasons. It dries faster, and you also lose less of the detail. You know, when you put a layer of paint on, you're essentially putting a layer of gunk over all the careful work I did in the design phase on these toys. So you want to lose as little of that as possible. You know, you want to lose as little detail as possible. So there's a fine line you walk with it. And, you know, I just, all I can do is show up and do my best. Just like in the ring. All I can do is show up and do my best. Yeah, I think we're going to get away with just 2 coats here, which is going to make life much easier. Much easier. Because once this is all done, once we've finished all that, we still have a bit of detail work to do. I got to do the whites of the eyes. We still got to do the hair. Thankfully, on the head and torso, that's all that's needed, is the hair and the eyes and the flesh color. You know, again, this is that style of the old school toys. It's always cheaper to have fewer colors on a toy. It's less for the factory to do. And in my case, it's less for me to do. But it's also a stylistic choice because I want this to remind me of those toys. So again, I would never cut a corner in terms of losing detail and like being a recognizable character. However, I will sort of cut corners if it adds to the style of the toy. You know, that's an important distinction I make because you know, I do. You can tell by how long I take on these. I care about how these come out. You know, I don't want to sell anything that I don't have pride in. You know, in fact, I got an email from the mother of a kid who bought a grind play set on Friday, letting me know that when they got home, one of the little lights for the playset didn't work, which really surprised me. I had tested all of them, but you know, they sat in the box for a while. So I've since tested all my lights. Everything's good. I think he just got bad luck. Got the only light that wasn't working. But yesterday packed up a little package and sent that kid a replacement light, some spare batteries for it, and a couple of trading cards and things because I felt bad that he got home and the light didn't work. That's not what we're about here at PVP Industries or PVV Industries. I'm saying my own company wrong. All right, I'll switch over to the big soft brush here. Yeah, this big soft brush gets some good coverage and it does help me avoid a lot of brush strokes. Yeah, this was a good pick. Now, one thing to note is it's possible I wake up tomorrow and I look at these when they're all dried up and I decide, oh man, that paint didn't actually cover as much as I would like to. That's possible. You know, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So if when it cures up, the paint sometimes can get a little more translucent than it had been, I will just off camera do an extra coat if it's needed. It's possible it won't. This is looking really good. I'm very pleased with this. See, Adam NX67 says, so I looked at my Blue Sky followers, and one of them is AEW French News. Now I can't stop thinking about French Taunter from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Tony-Khan, you go away or I shall taunt you a second time. Yeah, that's looking good. All right, let's get a quick look here. I'm just giving it the once over to make sure that I hit all the areas I think I need to. Sometimes, you know, you're doing one color on top of a color you've already done. You know, you're doing the same color on top of itself. Real easy to miss some spots. All right, I think that's it for coat 2, and I think that's all the coverage we need. Oh man, I am exceedingly pleased with that because, like I said, with slightly darker primers and you know, doing some before without primer, sometimes it was taking 3 or 4 coats of this flesh color to get the coverage that I needed. So this is a great big improvement. All right, how are we looking on this? This is fully cured. I don't need to hit this with the heat gun at all, which is also good news. All right, let's get into some of these details here. Now, when they do these in the factories, You know, you might think, oh, it's all fully automated, it's all machines doing that, and that's really not the case. They actually will do a lot of this by hand, but not with brushes. They have these special pieces that you can put it inside of, and it's essentially a hard mask. Like if you think what masking tape does, it'll be a solid piece that the whole toy goes into, that when you clamp it down, it leaves an opening just where you want one specific color. And you clamp the piece down inside it, and then you give it a little spritz with your spray gun, and bam, you got that color. Hey, hey, Rye in the chat. Welcome. Welcome to a rare Wednesday night, Perry. We're putting some finishing touches on middle of the process touches on some additional Perry figures, because they sold very well at Pro Wrestling Grind, and I don't have the stock I need for the luau. So I got to get these guys wrapped up tonight so I can get them clear coated and curing, so that we're all ready to go for Saturday. Because we got those slick Blitzkrieg Pro Playsets, and I think people are going to really want those. And if you need the playset, you need the figure. Yeah, we're just hanging out, having a relaxing toy painting stream. Started off painting some playset parts and some championship belts, and doing some glue ups on some parts that need a little bit of pre-assembly. And then we moved on to Old Reliable, painting mini Perrys. And I know I'm not the only one painting mini Perrys. I know chat regular Nicka Beans was working on. She has an unpainted Perry figure that she's doing up in her own style, and I'm really excited to see how that turns out. Oh right, you were out on the scooter, huh? That rules. Adam says it's painting with the Bob Ross of pro wrestling, Perry Von Vicious. Absolutely. Hey, you know, like I said, it's not a title I would have thought that I'd end up with, but I can't really think of a better one. Like, that's a pretty good accolade to have. If I could be the Bob Ross of toy making, the Bob Ross of pro wrestling, the Bob Ross of wrestling toys, I'm pretty good with that. That sounds like a decent title. Yeah, this soft wide brush, I'm real happy with this. This is giving me great coverage with very minimal brush strokes, and it's hard to get both of those things going at once, but this kind of round, fat, soft brush, awesome. Really doing the trick. Coming in clutch. I wish I'd found this about 7 or 8 figures ago. What can you do? I believe for my birthday in a few weeks, I have some very nice model making brushes with some cool little fine points and stuff on my Amazon list that I think my in-laws are the ones who usually look there, and I think they're going at it. I think they're gonna hook me up with some toy making supplies. Yeah, sometime soon. Yeah, let's put a happy little tree right here next to this action figure. It's a little secret tree. No one has to know. Yeah, I think as we approach my birthday, you know, tomorrow starts the summer Steam sale, and I need some new games to stream for you all. So I think I'm going to be sharing out my Venmo info tomorrow, and seeing if I get a few donations here and there, I might do a little bit of a buy and splurge, so that we got some fresh games for the stream. We've been talking about doing some Planet Coaster. We've been talking about doing some some Cuphead, maybe Epic Mickey. You know, there's some great games that I'm really hoping the Steam sale comes through. All right, I gotta get a good look at this guy under the light here and see what our coverage is like, because I think that's the last coat that we need. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Feeling real good about that. All right. Hang this guy up. I meant to bring a beverage down here, and I did not do that. Well, lesson learned. All right. I'm going to bring the whole rack over here rather than reaching back and forth for it. For those on the Instagram stream, you've watched very deeply into the stream at this point. And I do have my own little custom drying racks for these figure parts. Literally made of hot glue and popsicle sticks and little Dollar Tree clamps. But, you know, why spend a bunch of money if you can just get a little creative with it, you know what I mean? All right, we're going to mix up a fresh batch of this. And I think we might, wow, yeah, as that's cured up, the coverage on those arms is looking pretty good. It's possible we only need 2 coats there as well, and boy, that would be nice. All right. Yeah, and it doesn't take much here. I am dripping a bit of water in on the paint. As I mentioned earlier, you know, each layer you get little bits of some brush strokes that happen. And you don't want those in the final product. So when you thin out the paint in the later layers, the paint will naturally fall into those old brush strokes and sort of fill the gaps in. And again, I do think for the next round of figures, I'm probably going to break out and clean the airbrush, get thinning these paints down, and give a whirl at that, at least for the flesh colors. I think things like the wrist tape and some of the fine details, I can hand paint that stuff. But for the flesh color, just to get it nice and even, I might like to airbrush it. I had previously used 3D printing filament that was sort of a that sort of beige peach flesh color that fits my complexion so well. But I needed a different kind of resin because that stuff wasn't very durable. I didn't like that it could break. Even just when assembling pieces, sometimes a peg or a joint would snap, and that's no good. These, I'm using a very durable ABS-like resin that has just a little bit of give, so when you're assembling things, you're far less likely for anything to break. All right, let's grab arm number 1 here, and let's give it a look over and see how did the last layer cure up. All right, yeah, it looks pretty good and dry to me. I didn't want to have to break out the heat gun again. All right, and let's see about what we got for different brushes here. Because I might want to try a different one on this and see if we get, with soft bristles, you can sometimes get a really nice second layer for some of this stuff. Ooh, okay. Yeah, let's try that one out. Yeah, I'm trying new stuff here, seeing how things work. Let's see, how's the width on this? Yeah, we can get some good control there. These early layers, you can be a little bit sloppy because you start with your lightest colors. Because if you start with a dark color, it's very hard to cover it over with later layers. But also the less that I get in other spots, the less likely having to do other layers with multiple coats will be. Like I become more likely to get it all done in one pass. Okay, this is actually, this soft brush might do the same sort of trick I was getting on the body with that big broad flat brush that was nice and soft. Yeah, I think we're gonna have, I think that's gonna be all it takes for, yeah, I think this will be 2 layers and done. And boy, doesn't that put a smile on my face. Now the nice part is here, if I get a little bit sloppy with these layers, the only thing that I have that covers them up later is black for the wrist tape, and black covers things up real good. Like you'd never know there was a messy layer under it, and that's truly ideal. Because as it turns out, I'm not bad at painting these things, but I'm not great, you know. Interestingly enough, as an adult, I had done almost no work like this until I started making these toys. You know, as a kid, I did tons of model making and kit bashing of toys. Just did tons of it. You know, I grew up. My dad's a nerd, so when I was a kid, he got me into nerdy hobbies, and it rules. It's like the most fun thing. And he taught me all the little tips and tricks that he had learned when he was a kid working on similar things. And now that I'm a grown up, he and I still chat and we still exchange little ideas on that stuff. I've definitely told the story on stream before and I've mentioned it, but at some point I'm going to go through my parents' garage, because somewhere in there's a model of a Mars habitat that my dad and I made when I would have been in like the 8th grade for a science project. And it's completely kit bashed. It's all original parts. You know, we were modifying Hot Wheels cars. We were breaking apart McDonald's toys to get, oh, here's a little piece for this that we could use. We were to make the actual Mars dome. We wanted to make it in a way that would be similar to how you might make it on the surface of Mars. So we took a plastic bag, a Ziploc bag, and inflated it, similar to how you might be able to inflate like the parachute you use to land on another planet. And then over that, we sprayed some of that in a can spray-on insulation foam as the surface, because insulation foam would insulate you. If you used it, it would be lightweight and take up no space to travel because it would be in its little can. And we used that as the outside. Then we popped the bag and pulled it out. And then because it was a model and you needed to see the inside, we cut the whole top half of it off so you could open it up and look inside and see all the little stuff. And we used little HO scale men from train sets that we painted to look like astronauts. And we used little pieces of plastic packaging from food and other toys to make little greenhouses. It was really, really cool. Even to make the sand, we wanted red sand like you get on Mars. And so to make that, we wanted it to be made the same way it is on Mars, where it's oxidized. There's metal in the sands of Mars, and it oxidizes. So we took some sand, literally from the sandbox that I grew up with. We stuck it in a bag with some steel wool and some water and kind of swished it all around, and then left it with some salt out in the sun for a few days. And then we opened it up and pulled out the steel wool, and we had red sand. And we laid it out in a box and let it dry, and then we sprayed it, laid it down with tracks in it for the little vehicles, and we sprayed it with watered down Elmer's glue to make it all stick flat for our surface. Super cool, and I know it's still in the garage somewhere, and I'd love to have it. I'd make a display case for it and put it down here in the workshop somewhere. This is not everyone grows up with awesome parents, but Perry Von Vicious sure as shit did. My parents rule. I think it's one of the reasons that I get on so well with the younger wrestlers is I grew up with really great influences about how to be encouraging and nurturing and friendly to the younger folks around you. Because my parents were the favorites in the neighborhood. Every kid in the neighborhood would come over our house and hang out, man. The sleepovers were always at our house. We had the most like fun, goofy stuff to do. We didn't have a ton of money, but it didn't matter. My dad found fun stuff for us to do. We'd go out sledding in the backyard. My dad would build incredible tracks for us that were like bobsled tracks with big swooping turns. You know, we were always doing stuff like that as kids, and it was the best. You know, and I liken that to why I end up doing this kind of stuff now. Like, this is exactly the kind of project my dad and I would have done when I was a kid if 3D printers had existed then. You know, he would have said, "Oh, you like wrestling figures? Let's make one of you." And that's what we would have done. And go figure, now I'm all grown up. I've got my grown up money and my grown up time. And that's what I do now. It's pretty cool. And he's super into it. He's come over, he's seen the workshop, he's helped me with projects here. I always show him updated you know, hey, here's what I worked on this toy, here's the new thing I designed. I know sometimes he watches these streams on my YouTube channel. If you're watching, Dad, hi. Super, super supportive, especially when it comes to the creative endeavors, you know. Yeah, I really do think I'm going to get away with just 2 coats. Heck yeah. Getting that light colored primer was the right move. And also using a softer brush on the second coat. Huge improvement. Really lets the paint just kind of fill in where it needs to go. Which is wild because with this flesh color, it's such a light paint color. It's so easy for it to not cover everything fully, even with a light undercoat. Right. 2 more arms, then another round on the legs, and then we can. Then I think we can start addressing the hair on Perry's head, and then I think it's all black after that. And I'm going to hit the details on the trunks probably tomorrow. Well, we'll take a look if those are good and cured up. I don't like to do detail work over paint that's not really good and cured, because that's when you start scraping into the paint and kind of messing things up. But we'll see. It might, you know, those trunks, we painted those way back much earlier in the stream, so it might be fine. I'm watching my viewer count on Twitch, and I'm wondering who that's still watching has been here since we kicked the stream off. I'm interested to know, because this has been a long stream, and there's still a fair bit to go, and I want to know who's been in this for the long haul. Who's been enjoying the Bob Ross vibes? Oh man, Alan Nadu's still hanging in there. Hell yeah, let's go. First stream back in a while, and he means business. In right at 9 and stuck it out. Hung right around. Let's go. I know Alan Nadu's looking forward to the luau this weekend. You coming decked out in a Hawaiian shirt? You coming dressed for the fest? I love that there's sort of a cosplay element to the luau. Like everybody shows up in Hawaiian shirts and stuff. That's so cool. I mean, it's an easy sell for me being a huge Weird Al nerd. Of course, I love people showing up in Hawaiian shirts, right? Alan says, I ain't got no Hawaiian shirts, but I'm going to be there. Hey, that's all it takes, man. Being there is being there, whether you're cosplaying or not, right? Rye says she's still looking for something to wear. Hey, I mean, you got a few days. You got Nika Beans to help you style it up too, if you end up running low on ideas. For those who haven't seen online, Nika Beans has been working on some weapons for the fans bring the pool toys match. Very impressive, very cool. You see a lot of fans bring the weapons kind of things that are just, it's just items with thumbtacks taped to them or whatever, or glued to them. Not this. Nika Beans is doing full-on art for this match, and it rules. I've been getting little update images every now and again because for obvious reasons. Nika Beans knows I appreciate some goofy art projects. All right. It's totally Pula toy. It'll be a special night. Yeah, I think it's going to be a crazy night. I have some insight to some. I know some of what's going on there. There's some cool surprises lined up. There always are. The luau is always a huge show. Something big always happens, and I think fans are going to be really excited for some of the stuff that goes down. It's one of the nice things about being close friends with the promoters in the area. At Grind, obviously everyone knows I'm close with Rip Bison and Delmi Exo. Over at Blitzkrieg, I think most people know, but Jeremy Leary may be my oldest friend in wrestling. The first night that I showed up to wrestling school, he was in the ring training. He and I go back almost 18 years at this point. It'll be 18 years that I met him come September. September's my training anniversary. Oh yeah, the Jeff Cannonball raffle. What a good cause too. Everybody's homie. There's not a ton of people in wrestling that everybody universally likes, but man, isn't Jeff Cannonball top of that list. I'm bummed that I only got to work with him one time, but what a match to work with him in. It was me and Leary against him and Ultra Mantis Black. So cool. Especially since I was a Chikara fan when I was in college, and getting to work with Ultra Mantis Black was a big deal. And to have Jeff Cannonball in that match, you talk about fun. We did some crazy stuff. Probably the closest, might be the closest I've come to doing a death match. Instead of using a foreign substance like powder, a heel would use sunscreen. Oh, for the luau? That's so smart. Uh-oh. My laptop's starting to run low on power. We might have to end the stream before I'm done painting. We'll see. My laptop switched into into energy saver mode. We'll see how long it goes, because I still got a little ways to go on these, and these got to be done tonight. I got to be clear coating these tomorrow. All right, now for the inspection on this. Did we get it done in 2 coats? Just about, man. I'm so stoked on this. Oh, yeah. All right. And this is one of the things about doing this is like, again, I hadn't done a ton of this stuff prior to actually making my own action figures. So I didn't have a ton of experience. So like knowing how to do like multiple coats on a thing, like I knew a little bit, but obviously I know a lot more now. All right. I'm going to ask everyone in the chat, hang tight. I'm actually going to go run and grab the power cord to my laptop and just plug it in down here because I am not done yet and I need a little more time. So hang tight. Imagine if someone else came walking into the stream right now instead of me. It'd be like a horror movie. All right. Now I got to carefully climb. What you all can't see just off camera is that my basement is a terrible mess and like nearly impossible to navigate. Okay. Get this plugged in here. All right, there's that. All right, please hold. We're almost there, folks. Just need to bring an extension cord with me here. There we go. Let's make sure. All right, that's got it. We are powered back up. All right, we're still live, pal. All right, and now we gotta, that's right, we need another layer on the legs here. Let's make sure. All right, this is still looking good. All right. Yeah, I think we really are going to get away with just 2 coats here. Slightly watered down. Now you'll see a lot of like bubbles and things happening there. Those are all going to pop. As it dries, those pop and just kind of fade away. I try to not make a ton of those while I work, but once you've thinned the paint out, they tend to happen a bit more. Yeah, they're already popping and kind of disappearing. Looking good. All right, that's looking pretty good. I wonder what Instagram makes of these incredibly long streams. Like, I don't know if that particular algorithm likes this kind of thing, or if it's more detrimental. I have like no read on that. Because I know, like on YouTube, you know, you take your chances with long posts, you know. When you have a long post on YouTube, you run the risk of, if people don't watch it all the way through, YouTube decides it's not good, and you're hurt in the algorithm. Same goes for like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, but I don't know if Instagram cares about that. I think that Instagram seems to mostly care about like if your thing gets likes. And people like all kinds of stuff that they don't watch all the way through. Shit, that sounds like our entire political system right now. People just like things even though they don't see it through and see what happens. They just watch the beginning. Again, getting off on a tangent here. Alan says, I'm going to try to get my hands on that Bedlam title. Alan Nadu's hopping in the main event. The big run-in. I hope you do it. I think you'd be a great champion. Yeah, this is great. Oh, I'm so thrilled that Two Coats is doing the trick. Because previously that had not been the case at all. Hey, if you can take on Cruel, you're a more fierce competitor than I. Always, you know what's real fun? You know, Cruel's matches always spill out of the ring. If they ever make their way over toward merch, this is a little inside baseball. Look right at me. Look for Perry, because you probably won't find me. When Cruel spills anywhere near me in a match, I hide so fast because I don't want anyone to see me next to someone who's taller than me. Now, bear in mind, Cruel is not actually that much taller than me. It's like a couple inches. But still, how am I supposed to be a human monster truck if I'm wrestling someone bigger than me? Or for that matter, if I'm seen with someone bigger than me? The whole illusion of being a giant just disappears in that instant. You can't have that. That's how I makes my monies. Hey, you know, I have wrestled people taller than me, and it has been recent. Within the last 2 years or so, I wrestled Ryan Gallione at Pro Wrestling Grind, and he had a good 2-3 inches on me. And that was a weird experience. Alright, and that is it for flesh color. We are done with flesh color. Yeah, that's another nice thing about working with acrylics. Those watching on Twitch just saw me in the corner come in with a piece of paper towel and kind of go at this a little bit. And that's if you're careful, if this paint is still wet and you get somewhere you don't want it, you can get it right off of there real easy. I will say, I think Ryan Gallione didn't like that I was close to his height, because he did knock a couple inches off of me. He gave me a Iconoclasm Tombstone pile driver that I just felt the top of my head just graze the mat just a little bitty bit. I think he said, no, you're not going to be taller than me. I'll take you down an inch or two. We'll have a little more separation here. It was one of those things where I felt it, and it was just like, just a little bit. And I thought, okay, I'm okay. That was fine. And then on the drive home, I stopped at a drive-thru to get some food. I was starving, and the person, you know, I'm getting my money, And the person said something out the window in the car, and I turned and I said, "Yeah, one sec." Oh, oh. And when I turned my head, it was just like, "Oh no!" Yeah, I was sore for a few days from that one. But you know, that's if that's the worst that came of it, not so bad. He was great to work with in the ring, though. Man, what a performer, what a professional. Super nice guy too. And yeah, I picked his great big ass up and gave him a merry-go-round. Yeah, you better believe it. All right. I think we're moving on to hair. We're moving on to the black. What are we doing? We'll do hair first, and then we'll move on to the black. We got to let these other pieces dry a bit. But if we can get if the hair and beard on Perry's head gets done in one go, those are basically finished. Like tomorrow, I'll do the eyes. You know, I'll get the whites of the eyes on there first thing in the morning, give them a couple hours to cure up, hit them with the heat gun, and then clear coat them. And then I do the pupils over the clear coat so that the clear coat doesn't make it smudge. That would be great to have those done. The legs are going to need a little bit of work because I got to do the trunks. There's a bit of design work that goes on the trunks. But I cheat those. I use my, for those, I use my Gundam paint markers, which are great. Pick those up in Japan. And boy, what a purchase. Worth every penny. It was on my list while I was over there. I knew I had to get to the Gundam Mall and see the 60-foot tall Gundam animatronic. But I also knew I need some of the Gundam paints for toy making when I get home. All right. Now we got our King's Gold, which is the color I use for my hair and beard. Someone earlier, as soon as we kicked the stream off, someone was commenting about, wow, another Perry stream this week. How'd we get so many streams? Because I don't usually stream this often. This is I had a failed stream Monday, and now this would be technically my third stream of the week. And there's a few simple answers to that question. I got a lot to do, and a lot of it translates to the stream this week. Today's stream, this one, is kind of a makeup for the failed stream on Monday. The heat was too much for my computer, and it just couldn't run a game and my streaming software at the same time in the heat. All right, is this good? I'm looking a little ratty. This is a little pro tip. I keep some of these flush cutters. I keep a pile of these around. You can order them in bulk online. They're great for a lot of things. They give you a nice clean flush cut, as the name would imply, on plastic pieces in particular. But this brush is a little uneven at the top, and I think that's just from a lot of overuse. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to give myself a nice clean edge at the top and just try to even it out. Little haircut on the brush. Something that people don't often think to do, but it can make a huge difference. You end up with fewer stray bits and things. All right. I don't think I'm going to need to thin this out at all. This looks pretty good. All right, so I'm going to start up at the top hairline and then work my way down to the finer points. Yeah, coverage is not bad with this. Sometimes it takes 2 coats, but it might not. That's looking pretty good. Oh, I'm pleased with that. You know, it's funny, I keep thinking, like, this is going real fast, and then I look up at my stream and realize I'm over 2 hours, which I know Twitch will love. Twitch loves long streams. Gonna take me a while to upload this to YouTube, though. Those YouTube upload speeds on really long videos can be brutal. I got a new vlog coming out on YouTube. I believe it goes live Friday afternoon or possibly Saturday morning. I don't recall when it's scheduled for. You'll see it on my YouTube channel. That's going to be a fun vlog. We got the last Blitzkrieg show on that, where Dante Drago and Nick Robles both saved my butt in the last chance battle royal, to give me my shot at the new Blitzkrieg championship that is still yet to be crowned, yet to have an inaugural champion. But I will be in the finals for that because of that match. And yeah, the boys helped me out, and I appreciate it. I didn't ask them to do that, but it's very much appreciated. They're good kids. But that's on that vlog episode. We also have I went to a ska show with Leary from Blitzkrieg, and our good friend Johnny Torres. We went to see the Toasters and the Steppen Razor Blades, who are a more local ska band. But yeah, I saw the Toasters, who are, you know, ska royalty, old school ska royalty. You know, depending on who you ask, they are second or possibly third wave ska, and they are as OG as it gets. And man, did they put on a show! We saw them at the Nook in Westfield, who are a frequent sponsor of Blitzkrieg Pro, and a beautiful, tiny little venue. I mean, seeing absolute legends in a room that small was really cool. I mean, we probably had 60 people tops at that show, and it was full. It was at capacity. We had trouble getting in the room. Like, we had to push and shove past people to even be in the room. And what a time. Just a great show, a great time, you know, hanging out with Johnny Torres and Leary, two of my oldest friends in wrestling, both in my initial graduating class from wrestling school. You know, hard to complain about that. I mean, that's just a good time, you know. All right, now we got to get the mustache painted in, which can be a little bit tricky. I had real big fish stuck in my head all day. There's worse things that have happened. There we go. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna have some much more fine tip brushes that I believe I'm getting hooked up with for my birthday, that are gonna make some of my toy making life a little bit easier, which is really gonna matter because there are some other wrestlers who sounds like they're gonna be getting some Perry toys made soon, because they're into how mine look. They've seen that they sell well, and so they're going to be hiring me to make their toys. I won't say who yet, but they are wrestlers who are familiar to all of you watching, some good friends of ours here on the stream. And they have said that they are not themselves crafty. So, you know, when I made some toys for our homie, the Nomi, Gabby Forza, and Gabby said, I'm going to paint my own. You just make them, hand them off to me, I'm going to paint them. Which is awesome. It's less expensive for Gabby, because I don't have to charge for painting. And it's less work for me, because I'm not painting. But these the wrestlers who were talking to me about having them made now just said, you know, yeah, I can't paint my own figures. So they're gonna go ahead and pay a slightly higher rate, but it does mean I'm going to be painting them for them. And that means you're all going to get to come along for that on the stream, because I told them, you know, if I paint your figures, I'm going to be doing it on stream. So people are going to know that there's figures coming. They're going to know what they look like, which is good. Just free advertising. when it's time for them to sell them, people will know. They can send them a link to my YouTube and go, this is what it looks like. Yeah, I think this is only going to take one pass for the hair and the beard. Oh, this is pure luxury to have the layers going this quick. There we go. Looking pretty sharp, if I do say so myself. All right, hang him up on this other rack. Get our other guy, and by the time we're done with this one, we'll be able to see how that first one cured up and know if we need another. We'll know if we need another pass or if one is going to do the trick. I am so glad that the heat is finally breaking. It has been unbearable outside. My wife and I just spent the last couple days just making sure the chickens made it through the heat okay. Thankfully, we were able to cycle some ice packs and some fans, and we have a mister in their chicken run, so we were able to turn that on and give them a gentle mist coming down the whole time, and that kept them pretty safe. You know, if it ever gets too bad, we just bring them inside. They'll live in our bathroom for a few days where the cats can't get them, and we'll turn the AC on. Thankfully, it didn't come to that because those chickens make a mess. They are not ideal roommates. Yeah, again, you know, getting all the details on myself here makes for a lot of work when I'm painting. But you know, I wanna make and sell toys that I'm proud of. I don't wanna sacrifice, you know, making it look right in the name of having an easier time making the toy. You know. And I think, and I think you can all tell me if I'm right on this, I think the fact that the actual performer, me in this case, hand painted it himself and designed it himself, I feel like that's kind of part of the draw. I think that might be part of why my toys sell really well, because, you know, imagine if you could go to a store and get a CM Punk figure that Punk himself painted. Or, you know, you could get a toy that whoever Roman Reigns designed himself. Like, how cool would that be? That would be so much more popular. And especially when you're looking at toys on the indie level, like, you know, you kind of almost expect that connection with the toy from someone at my level. You know, I also, at this point, between my wife and I doing the designs, like basically all my shirt designs are done in house by us. You know, it's I think that there's something special about that. I mean, you know, never mind the fact that I came up in the world of punk rock, and you know, it was all DIY. Everything was done in house. You know, when I was touring in my punk band, we did all our own shirt designs. We did all our own. We designed our album cover ourselves. Hell, we burnt the CDs ourselves. That's where we were at the time. We had a tower, a tower computer that we brought with us on the road. And if we were running low on copies of our album, we would get the rare luxury of a hotel room for the night, and we would plug the tower in and start burning CDs. Yeah, exactly. Starting your own screen printing business just so you could print your own band's merch. I mean, that's where I'm at. I've essentially started a 3D print business because I wanted to make my own wrestling merch. And now I have different companies that I do work for, sometimes prototyping, sometimes making actual production pieces. And I have wrestlers that are going to start, getting their toys made through me. And it's all because I wanted to make stuff for me. It was just going to be my merch. All right, let's see here. We can go a little bit heavier through the beard. Go a little bit heavier up on top of the head. Just trying to make sure there's no particularly light spots. That way I don't end up having to come in and do another pass. Now, admittedly, it is always easier to add more paint than it is to take away, but I'm going little bit by little bit. I'm creeping up on it, That's kind of how you want to do this. He's looking pretty solid, if I do say so myself. Pretty pleased with Lil Pear Bear. All right, let those guys hang up and dry. We'll set our hair color stuff aside. Now let's get a look here. I just want to see how everything's drying up on these legs. Yeah, the skin color needs a little bit longer to dry, so I don't want to get on that just yet, because I do think I can do the detail on the trunks before we're done here. At least I can get it started. But I got to be careful because I want that flesh color to be fully dry, and I don't want to rush it because it is the last layer. I don't want to rush it with the heat gun. I want to be very careful and mindful of that. So I think we're going to do some of the black, and we're going to finish these arms, because on the arms you'll see the black goes in one go. Don't need multiple layers of the black. It is one and done because it is a deep dark color. We get really great first pass coverage. And on the arms, all I have to do is the wrist tapes and the one elbow sleeve on the arm that has that. So these will go pretty quick, and then that'll be it. The arms will be done. We will have technically 4 body parts finished. It's not going to take very much. So again, I've got this dollar store thing of black acrylic paint that is big. I have big hands for scale, and that's all it's going to take for the black parts on these figures. So a little bit goes a long way. The stuff lasts you a long time. All right, so start with this guy, and I need to find a brush that has a nice fine point here. I need to be able to get some real detail worked out of this. Let's see, I think that's our winner. All right. You're going to see how nice and easy this goes, because the coverage on this happens real fast, and it is real nice. Oh yeah. I'm just now looking at the fine detail in on the paint here, making sure there's no areas that we missed. I'm so happy with that. Only 2 passes and it was good. That is a thing of beauty. All right, I don't want to go too heavy on this because I don't want anything dripping and getting away from me here. All right, I'm going to get the little parts first. I hope the camera's picking up the great coverage you get with a dark color like this. It makes me a little bit bummed that I don't wear more dark colors. I've always sort of tended toward bright colors in the ring. The last few years I've worn a little bit of black here and there. But like I say, if I was dressed like Stone Cold, black wrist tape, black elbow pads, black trunks, black boots, and that's it. Boy, that's easy to do. The toy makers must have loved him. All right. And this part is a little bit slow because I'm getting these fine details, but it's also because with the black paint, if I slip and it goes somewhere I don't want it, it's a tough fix. So I take my time with this part, but it only needs the 1 pass. So while I move more slowly, I only have to do it once. So that's pretty good. All right, we're looking pretty good. I wonder, for those watching, is this relaxing or is this boring? I got to assume it's just relaxing. If it was boring, you'd have stopped watching by now, right? All right, and that is 1 arm done with my wrist tape and my elbow sleeve. Very happy with the results of that. All right, I'm going to grab the other one that's sort of like that, real finicky. Because after this, the next 2 arms are a little bit faster because they only have the sort of big thick bit of wrist tape. So that's kind of fast to paint. Again, knowing all the work and how hard it is for me to do these, like how much time it takes, all the care that goes into it. I know the homie Nicka Beans is working on a custom Perry of her own, and I can't wait to see how it turns out. Because I know that her crafting abilities far surpass my own. So I'm going to be real interested. I know she's going in a different direction. It's not just a traditional, as you see in the ring, Perry. Nickabeans has had a few different ideas on directions she would go with it, and it's definitely become a bit of an art piece. So I'm very excited to see how that turns out. Speaking of art pieces, if this traditional Perry doesn't quite do it for you, if it's not your cup of tea, I have 2 human monster truck art toys left that will be with me at Blitzkrieg. The half monster truck, half human figure made by my good friend toymaker Kerfloss on Instagram, Kerfloss. If you get the chance, give him a follow. Check out his work. He does some really cool toy making. And he's a super nice guy. He and I collaborated on a number of things, and he knocked it out of the park with the sculpt for that toy. And where I sculpt my toys digitally for 3D printing, he is an analog sculptor. He does wax sculpting, the very traditional style, the way Scott Hensey did all the toys for Playmates in the 80s, designing figures like the Ninja Turtles and the Street Sharks and the Toxic Crusaders figures. So it's pretty cool to have my own figure designed in that same style. He even sent me the wax sculpt, the original piece. So I have that, which is really cool. I got to figure out a way to display that, and you know, you got to be careful because that heats up too much. It will melt. That's if you didn't know, the traditional method for sculpting toys, you start with sort of a rough sculpt in clay, and then from there you take that clay and you make a mold of it, and then into that mold you pour sculpting wax. You melt and pour in sculpting wax, and then you take the wax piece and you do your fine work on it, because you can really get in and do very small details, and then when you touch it with your hand, it doesn't smudge the way clay would because it's hard. Yeah, wax sculpting is something I would love to get into, and my buddy Kerfloss actually sent me some samples of, he sells toy sculpting wax. So I have some to play with sometime, but I haven't quite gotten to it yet. But there are only 2 of that toy left, and there will not be more made. That is a one and done run of those toys. There were only 8 made. I've been selling them off very slowly. A lot of shows I don't even bring them. I kept 1 that is for me. That'll be part of my my archives. And then after that, I have sold 5. There are only 2 that remain, and I don't expect them to remain for much longer because they are really cool. And people really like them. The people who buy them really like them. It's a half monster truck, half human, and it does self-balance, which is really neat, and it does roll. So you can play with it as a toy truck, or you can play with it as a wrestler. And it looks great on a shelf. Comes with a little 3D printed stand so it doesn't go rolling off your shelf. I use that when I display it on my merch table so it doesn't go rolling around. All right, yeah, this hand goes a lot faster because it's just that bit of the wrist tape that needs to be done. Yeah, that one's nice and quick. Oh, I'm so psyched. These arms are about to be finished. Looking good. Yep, a lot to look forward to at the luau. Then I got a rare weekend off. Then I'm gonna be going to see Weird Al Yankovic in Boston out on his bigger and weirder tour. You know, I've seen every Weird Al tour since 1999's Touring with Scissors, when he was touring in support of the album Running with Scissors, which of course had the mega hit "The Saga Begins," his parody of Don McLean's American Pie that tells the entire story of Episode 1 of Star Wars. So I'm very excited for the show. Always a great time. Al has a bigger band than he's ever toured with, and he'll be doing all the costumes and screens and everything. It's the whole production. And then we'll have Pro Wrestling Grind with some very special guests that we'll be announcing very soon. I can't wait for that. I think people are going to be real excited. All right. And with that, the arms are done. And I'm going to go put this rack out of the way, safely out of the way, where those pieces can cure up overnight. And then tomorrow they'll be good for clear coat. I won't even have to take them off the rack. Clear coat them right on the same piece. Adam NX67 says, speaking of Weird Al, he had a song in the 1986 Transformers movie. That's right, Dare to Be Stupid played when, I believe it's when, what's the yellow bug? Bumblebee? Is that his name? Bumblebee? When he was on. I don't remember if she's seen him. I've never myself. Wanted to gift Nikki tickets to see Weird Al. Oh, man. Boy, it would have been a great time. Yeah, UHF is so good. It gets a rewatch about once a year from me. I can't help it. You know, it's one of my all-time favorite films. And there's so many ways to enjoy it. You can watch it as though it was, you can watch it ironically. You can watch it in earnest. It's just always fun. It was when they were fighting the Junkions and they gave the leader some gum and he started dancing together. I remember that. I remember that they used Dare to Be Stupid in that movie. Multiple times a year, usually for me. Oh, I was so happy to find out that UHF was on Tubi. Now, I have the DVD release from years ago that has, to me, maybe my favorite commentary track ever. It is Al doing commentary. And every once in a while, he sort of stands up into the frame and interrupts the movie. So it's basically a whole nother movie because there's video elements. So it's not just the audio track changing; it's the whole thing, which is so cool and so dumb. Okay, you've had Transformers on the brain, huh, Adam? I get it. It's a classic. All right, so I am going to do these trunks up because they're looking pretty good and dry. I don't think we're going to run into any issue here. All the paint's cured up really well. I'm happy with that. No extra passes needed there. So this will be the first time I've done this on stream. Using these is how I do the design on these. And it's real simple. I'm going to start with this silver. Give these a good shake. You can sort of see some squiggles and stuff on the paper here. That's from where I do my little test bits with this, because you don't want too much paint coming off these at once. And it certainly can happen. Okay, that's looking good. All right, so the design on these, this is the Carolina Crusher ones. So on the back it just says Vicious, and it's sort of in like an exploding, like a little bit of a sunburst design. All right, hang on. We're setting that one aside. Okay. There we go. I do the second half of the word first. And it's going to look kind of big and a little bit messy. And that's very much on purpose. Because it needs to be legible from a ways away. And while that does look messy, it's going to look a lot cleaner once I add the burst around it. Just taking a quick look at this for a sec. Just a little. I didn't like how that was going. We're gonna white over that, I think. Yeah. We're going to fix that one up in a sec. I didn't like how that one was going, so I stopped right in the middle of it. All right. All right, and it's going to look messy until the red is around it, and then it looks a lot cleaner. But I like the explosion on the back to be big, so it's really legible from a ways away. All right, that's got to dry up. I am going to hit this other one with some white real quick. There we go. I knew I still had a cup here. And let's see, where's the big soft brush? So I'm just going to cover that up and let it cure up a little bit because I did not like my initial drawing on there was not great. And that's one of the nice things about, being able to take your time on these things is if you don't like how an initial pass on something goes, you just paint right over it and start over again. All right, that looks good. Warning on any earbuds, folks, I am going to use the heat gun for just a second here. That's pretty good. I'm going to let that stand and cure for a minute. Let's get a look. How's this one drying up? I'm actually going to hit this one a little bit too, just to help it along. That should do it. All right, that's looking good. Pull that silver back out again, and I'm going to hit this one. We're going to redo this. All right, here we go. All right, there we go. Nice and clean, vicious on there. And then I'm going to give it the little explodey sunburst that goes around it. And I don't make the sunburst that detailed because I have to go back around it after with red. So the fewer little spikies I give it, the easier that is. And it also looks a little cleaner from a distance if it's not too intricate. If I get too fiddly with it, if I try to get cute with it, that's when it starts to not look quite so great. Like this one's a little messy, so I'm actually going to take the white pen, which I typically use for the whites of the eyes on the figures, and I'm gonna clean this up just a little bit. Let's make sure we're flowing here. Yeah, there we go. All right. There we go. Okay. And this is me being a perfectionist. What you're witnessing here is me fiddling over little bits of this that really don't need that much attention. But, you know, again, like I said, it's a thing of like I have a certain standard in my head that I would like to maintain, that no one else is going to notice or care, but I'll know. There we go. That's looking a lot better. Warning on the heat gun again. Okay, I'm going to do the same here. Just helping that along, helping it dry out just a little bit. It will cure on its own, and it tends to do it quickly. But I'm impatient, and I've got more to do on it, so... Alright. Set that down. As long as we had that white pen out, you know what, that hair needs to dry a little more. We're gonna stick with what we're working on now, and that's simply enough. This is now dry enough that we can come in with our red and do our sort of Carolina Crusher half and half design here. Put the cap back on this. Pro tip: shake your markers with the cap on. That way, if there's a leak, the paint doesn't go flying everywhere. You only make that mistake once. That's something my dad would have called a self-correcting behavior. All right, there we go, looking good. All right, so for this, I like to sort of get my initial line in, and then I do all the filling after. So this is going to go, as I throw it to the ground, this is going to go from about here up to about there. And it's going to come out this side. And we're going to come around and back down. And that's our half and half. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to get all the edge work done, and then we do the fill in after that. Okay, that's looking good. And now we're going to carefully go around the design we just made. Now this is nice because I can overlap a little without it looking messy, but I don't like to overlap a lot because then you can start to see it and it starts to look sloppy. And like I said, I have a certain standard that I like to keep. You know, no one else is going to care, but I'll know. You know, I got fans that are paying good money for these figures, and I don't take that lightly. You know, I've always prided myself on having really nice merch. You know, I don't want to sell anything that's going to break. I don't want to sell anything that's like, you know, oh, I just made it quick and cheap to make some money. You know, I don't want any of that. I want to sell stuff I'm proud of, because if you sell someone something and it's junk, they'll never buy anything else from you ever again. And that's heartbreaking to me. You know, I can remember being a kid and buying toys or stickers or things and having them be kind of not great. And it bummed me out so much because, you know, that was my That was my allowance money. I worked hard for that. I had to mow lawns for that money. You know, I was helping my dad re-roof the garage for that money. You know, I don't want some kid doing the same thing, you know, doing chores for their parents all weekend only to buy something from me and have it be garbage. That's why when I found out that that light didn't work in that playset, I was real quick to send some stuff out to that kid. Because we've all been there. I think we've all had like purchases we regretted as children. And it's a bad experience, you know, it's a bummer. I always get a little nervous over on Instagram when I look and I see that like some of the Instagram toy makers that I'm friends with tune in. That makes me nervous, knowing they're watching me make toys, because that's what they do. I'm a wrestler who makes toys. They're toy makers who watch wrestling. So I get real nervous when I see that they're watching. All right, so there is the trunks design. With the logo, which I think looks pretty slick. All right, I'm going to set that aside, let that dry up a bit, and we're going to do the same thing over on this one. Same deal, where I'm going to just draw my guidelines first. And I do take my time with this. There's not a ton of fine detail work that I have to do on these. So when I get to something like this, that's, you know, it's my gear. It's a defining characteristic of how I look in the ring. It's what makes this figure look like me. I take my time with it, you know. I want to get this part right. Also, for those who don't know, Delmi Exo makes my gear for me. So I consider taking the time and getting this gear right to be almost like a kind of a quiet thank you to her. Wildcard Ace Diamond. Oh, hey man, what's going on, bud? I can. These are all ones that I custom 3D design myself and print of me, and then I sell them at shows. I do have rates for doing designs for other wrestlers. We can get in DMs and talk about those rates. But yeah, I design and 3D print all my own toys. So these are designed to be in the style of the old school Hasbros. That's the style I work in. But it is custom. You know, it's me. I can if I set these legs down for a second and I grab drawing just off camera, I have my head that is very distinctly me that I just finished painting up. I still need to do the eyes. And when all is said and done, I have my my play sets that go with it. You get 2 of these to make the Blitzkrieg Pro entryway with there's little lights that go in them. So, pretty great. Let's see. Just fought one of my trainers, CPA. Oh yeah, at QPO we had a casket match. Oh man, yeah, I'm bummed you weren't there too. But I'll be back again, I'm sure. I love working down there. What a great spot. I wrestled there a couple years ago. literally a couple months before my first Japan tour. And yeah, had a great time. And this was actually my first time back since then. Just been busy, and the schedules hadn't quite lined up since then. But yeah, I've wrestled a few of your trainers. If you're I assume then you're a T2T guy. I've wrestled Logan so many times. I've known Logan for years now. And I've wrestled CPA a bunch too. I was actually the first person to challenge him for the Blitzkrieg Pro Championship at last year's Retro World Expo. It was his first show after winning that belt, and he and I had a really fun match. But yeah, your trainers, some of my favorite folks, and some of their students are some of my favorite folks. Absolutely love the crew there, A Game and Angelo and Quessy. Just a whole great crew there. I've known Sazzy for years now, and love Sazzy. And every time I go down there, I meet more of the crew, and I like them too. Everybody I meet there is a good kid. Meanwhile, I'm just some old man wrestler who's lucky enough to be invited to hang out. Man, these Gundam markers were a great purchase. I bought these when I was wrestling in Japan. Rye in the Twitch chat says, love, love, love T2T folks. I hope I get to photograph them again someday. I know a whole crew of them are going to be at the luau. There's always a strong T2T contingent at Blitzkrieg. But yeah, you should if you ever get the chance to get down to Brooklyn, QPO is where it's at. Nothing but good things to say about QPO. I have a ton to earn in like a year and 4 months into my training. Hey, we've all been there. We've all been there. We all started somewhere. You've come into wrestling at a really good time, my friend, because boy, when I was new, it was hard to get bookings. It was hard to get seen. It was hard to get reliable feedback. And when you did wrestle, they didn't film anything. I'm an old hand. I've been around a long time. The early shows I was on, I was the only one filming with my little handy cam. I would hand it off to someone and have them film my matches so that I could watch them back and learn from them. As a result, somehow, I am one of the oldest wrestling channels on YouTube. My channel is almost 18 years old. There we go. And there's the trunks, looking pretty solid. Once those dry, we're going to come back and get the knee pads and the boots, and those legs will be done. All right, so we finished legs, or we finished the arms. We gotta do a little more work on the head and torso. Specifically, I gotta give whites of the eyes here. And I think we're dry enough that I feel pretty comfortable doing that. So this is another situation that calls for the Gundam markers. Indie scene easier to work nowadays? Oh, much easier, much easier. Yeah, it was a different world when I started, and one that I do not wish upon any young wrestler. It was not great. I was lucky. I was a big kid, and I was easy to get along with. But like, man, the vets back then did not want you to excel the way they do now. When I work with young people now, all I want is for them to get their stuff in and get some experience and have fun. We show them off, showcase them, give them a chance to show out. When I was new, they told you, don't do anything. Leave it for the guys who were established. They also told us, you can't sell merch. You're new. Even though the vets weren't selling any merch. Like, it was bad. It was rough, man. I hated it. Like, looking back, I'm surprised I stayed in wrestling. All right. I'm literally just going in and carefully giving myself some whites of the eyes here. That's all that takes is the one pass, and I'm going to let that cure up nice and solid, and then once it's clear coated, I do the pupils over the clear coat so that the clear coat doesn't make anything, stream or run. All right, Adam NX67's taken off. Thanks for hanging out for a very long stream. This is my longest stream yet. I've never gone this long, but I had a lot of work to do and no plans, so able to do a lot here. All right. Yeah, the whites of the eyes go fast because very little to do. There we go. Ta-da! Kind of eerie looking with no pupils. All right. Let's hang that guy up, and those are good to dry till morning. All right, so all we got left is knee pads and boots on these torsos. I'm going to hit these real quick with the heat gun, just a little bit to solidify the paint on the trunks, because I don't want to accidentally muck that up while I'm painting this. So we'll put these markers away. This is great progress. This is the most I've ever gotten done on figure paints in one night. I'm going to have 2 finished figures ready for clear coat in the morning. Makes me so happy. Get that clear coat done, let that cure, get those pupils on there, and bam, we are finished. Fantastic. All right, now I feel confident on these. We can get the paint done and get them hung up on the rack for the night, and then we're gonna be wrapping up the stream finally. I can't believe we got there. All right, and I think there's still enough black in here to go. So let's see, which of these do I want? I don't need a ton of fine detail, but I think this one's going to be the one. All right. It's nice I can hold this by the, I guess I'll hold it by the boots until the knee pads are done, then I'll have to flip it around. God, I love the last pass with the black. Really really finishes it up. I'm not loving that brush though. I'm going to grab a fresh brush. I got a whole pile of them here. I might as well. Let's give this one a shot. Nope, don't like that one at all. That one's trying to splay on me and behave poorly. This one might be okay. It's a little bit thicker, but it feels like it's going to behave nicer. Oh yeah, that's what we needed. All right, there's one knee pad. Feeling good about that. This is it's working out pretty well. This is where I feel like I'm also finding out if Instagram has a limit to how long a stream can go. Like, it's still letting me go, and we're just over 3 hours. Crazy. All right, that's the knee pads on both. Now we're going to hit those boots, and this set of legs is done. Nice part here is I only have to be careful at the top of the boot. Then the rest goes real fast. There we go. I'm going to do it on the other side too. Just get all the finicky detail work out of the way at once. All right, there we go. Now we can fill in the blanks here. In some ways, I miss the days when I wore white boots, but you know, I've really I grew into the black boots. I wore white boots for a long time, maybe, gosh, 12 or 13 years. I wore white boots. But you know what eventually got me to switch? They scuffed so easy. Like once a week, I was having to take like a magic eraser to them to make them look nice for the next show. And man, that got old fast. I had one pair that never scuffed, and then I got a pair that just scuffed all the time, and yeah, then I was feeling done with white boots. It was an easy sell once they needed to be replaced. That's the non-glamorous side of pro wrestling that no one sees is painting your own toys until 1 in the morning, or being up till 2 in the morning using a magic eraser to try to make your boots look good. All right, there's a set of legs all done. Ready to go on the drying rack here. There we go. Out of the way and drying. And last set. All right. This brush, I also don't like how it's behaving, so I'm gonna clean all of these and then get a look and pick one that I think is going to behave a bit better. That one was giving me a little trouble. It was fighting me. I don't love that. Let's see. Which one do I think is best here? We give this one a try. I don't think I've given that one a shot yet. Who knows? Maybe that's the same one I was just using. I don't know. No, that's a fresh one. That's looking good. All right. All right. Last little bit here, and then we are wrapped on these figures. All right. There's one knee pad. We really are getting right up on the finish line here. I don't know if my careful leaning in on these that I wasn't doing early in the stream is a sign that I'm getting tired, or if I'm just being very intent about how I finish this up. Could be both. All right. That's 2 knee pads. Now we're just gonna get these boots done and call it a night. All right. Now we get to kind of speed run the rest of this here. Yeah, I'm still not loving how that brush is behaving. I keep picking brushes I don't like. All right. But we are to the broad strokes part here, so this is going to be a lot easier now. A lot less detail. I just don't want brush strokes in it, so back to this big soft brush. Yeah, even it's trying to leave brush strokes. I wonder if I just need more paint. I'm just painting with the dregs now, you know? It's possible that that's what's happening. Yeah, that might be it. All right. Just going to give these a quick once over, make sure everything's looking good. All right, and that is pair of legs number 2 done. All right. Hang that up on the rack here. All right, and with that, we are wrapped on painting our guys. Yeah, I'm gonna hit these with some clear coat tomorrow, and that's gonna be it for them. Feeling real happy with how that went. Got those all finished up, all painted, looking fresh. Hit them with some clear coat. I'm gonna let that dry. What's tomorrow? Thursday? Gosh, the week flew by, huh? I'm gonna hit those with some clear coat tomorrow. Let it all dry out, and then Friday morning, I will hit the pupils and the eyes over the top of the clear coat, and that's going to be that. All right. And with that, we are going to call it a stream. There was no Johnny Torres to raid because he is away on a trip. So that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me while I worked on my merch for the weekend. I will see everyone at the Luau on Saturday. I may be live again tomorrow briefly during the day working on a different project. We'll see how things play out. Until then, take care. See